A group of blokes were standing around in the pub discussing their occupations, and they decided that they'd illustrate them, see what sort of picture it made. So the first bloke said, "I'm a cabinet maker and I make window frames." The next bloke said, "Well, I make Venetian blinds to go in the window frame, and I'll add that." The next fella said, "Well, I work in a music shop, and amongst other things we sell music stands, and that looks like a music stand." The next bloke said, "Well, I'm an electrician, and I can add to it by doing that and turning that into a light globe." And another fella said, "Well, I'm a professional golfer." He said, "I'm not much of a drawer, but I'll add a couple of golf clubs to the golf bag." And the last bloke said, "Well, I'm retired," and he said, "So I can't illustrate my occupation, but I can add that and add that." And they looked at it and they said, "Well, what's that supposed to be?" And he said, "Well, since I've been retired, I sleep in, and in the morning I watch my wife getting dressed, and that's what I see."
You put in the laughter lips.
The candle holder. I hate smutty jokes.
Oh, I like it.
My father was terrific. He had a lot more talent than I did.
He was a painter?
No, he wasn't. He was in the army, and but he just had a talent, and had lots of his sketchbooks around the house that he'd filled when he was young. And I used to look at his pencil drawings, and I thought that they were just fantastic. And I used to copy his drawings. I was going to be a carpenter, a builder. Had an apprenticeship all lined up with a builder, and we're in the last days of our secondary school, and the vocational guidance teacher came round and had a look at my exercise books with all the drawing sketches and things in it. And fortunately for me, I was at Swinburne Tech, where they had a tertiary art school there. And he took the drawings across to the principal of the art school, and I finished up being offered a scholarship. The best thing that I learnt at art school was the axis of the ellipse is at right angles to the main axis of the cylinder whose circular end the ellipse represents.
What?
I went from art school to a process engraving company, and I was touching up opaquing negatives, and
everybody did this. All the artists did it.
Yeah. Well, it was really a good education, because it taught you what happened to the artwork after it left the art department. Went to the process engravers, and I was spotting out these negatives, and I was working on spotting out a full-page McEwen's ad, and I discovered a mistake in the ad. I can't remember what it was, but it was a fairly significant mistake, and they pointed it out to the artist who'd prepared it, and it saved him a heap of trouble. And he asked who found the mistake, and they told him that I had, and I was a former art student looking for a job in art, and he offered me a job in his studio. I might say that was the hardest thing I've ever done. The political cartooning on an afternoon newspaper. My deadline was about 9:15, 9:30 at the very late. I might have a rough idea of what I was going to do, and an idea might include, say, 3 or 4 caricatures of politicians. And I'd be watching the clock, and as the clock ticked around, the number of caricatures would drop off. Until finally, you had about half an hour. Yeah. And sometimes there was half an hour and there wasn't anything on that bit of paper. And then it had become a symbolic drawing or something. I heard about a sports weekend in the Northern Territory where all the major Aboriginal tribes get together. This was at Yuendamu, an Aboriginal settlement. And they have a sports weekend, which includes traditional events like fire lighting and spear throwing, boomerang throwing, as well as track and field, basketball and Aussie rules football. I went to the Herald editor and suggested it to him, and I said, look, I think this would really make an interesting drawing exercise, and he thought about it. He said, no, I don't think so. So I was so convinced that it would make a good story that I took a week off of my own time and went up to the Northern Territory. I got permission to go onto Yuendamu. It was about 200 miles northwest of Alice Springs, and I did my drawings. It was a fabulous weekend, and I did my drawings, and on the plane home I wrote about 200 words to go with it. And when I got back, I showed the editor, and he liked what I'd done, so they decided to run it in the Saturday magazine. And as a result, I won a Walkley Award.
You've won 4 Walkley Awards.
Things.
Have you featured in the Stanley Awards for the Australian Black and White Artists Club?
No, I haven't featured in those. No, yeah. I'd swap a couple of Walkleys for a Stanley.
Nobody can say Melbourne is less than Sydney. The world now sees a new Georgie boy.
These are sketches that I do on the spot. And I also take lots of photographs because I don't have time to do any finished drawings. And when I get back to the studio, I'll refer to the photographs, but sometimes I might just photocopy the sketch that I've done and then add some colour to it. I couldn't live without my photocopier. We're very attached to each other. These were some sketches that I did at backstage during a matinee of the producers, and got into terrible trouble with the girls in the dressing room. I was just trying to get some sketch of the atmosphere behind there, and they thought that I was an old person.
Oh, really?
So these are all originals from stories that I've done for Royal Auto on the series, the Welcome To series, where I used to go to more or less iconic places around Victoria and write a couple of hundred words and do 4 or 5 sketches of my impressions of the place. That's Noosa Beach. And once again, I'd I'd go to these places and I'd do lots of sketches of different people, and then and I'd also take photographs, and then I'd come back to the studio and compose the picture, put them all into the picture.